Hey guys, and welcome back to the very last episode of Pigment Playtime here on my channel. So previously I have looked at cool reds, and in this video I'm going to be looking at the warm reds. So cool reds are sort of, as their name suggests, cool in colour and colder than warm reds. Warm and cool are subjective to those who perceive it, so it's not set in stone. For me personally, I consider cool reds to be purple, pink, brown undertones and quite dark and have a colder feeling. So I have colours here such as alizarin crimson, perylene red and a few other deep red colours. If you do want to check that video out, I will leave it linked up in the iCards above for you to go find. So there are going to be 10 warm reds and that I'm going to be testing in this video. I'm also going to be including middle reds into this as well, because I feel that middle reds make better warm reds than what they do cool. I find they mix and make warmer colours than cooler colours. So I'm going to include them. And as normal, I've got the black line there so we can see how opaque they are. This is being painted out on Bockingford cold pressed watercolor paper, so it may show some texture. And this isn't cotton paper either, so it's not going to be as smooth or as nice as what cotton paper would be. So let's get onto the swatching. So the first colour that I'm going to swatch out is the one that is currently in my palette, and this is PR108 Cadmium Red Light by Schmincke. PR108 is a very popular colour. It sits in quite a lot of people's palettes and it's quite a traditional colour, and it's one that people have been using for a couple of hundred years, since the 1800s according to handprint. This colour is staining, quite intense, dark valued, and it's very light fast. The next colour is also the same pigment, PR108. This is Crimson, a handmade one by myself, and it's quite different compared to the Schmincke one. This one is definitely a lot deeper and it's more cooler than the Cadmium Red Light from Schmincke. It still does have some of the characteristics, such as being opaque and staining. Cadmium colours can come in a range of hues from light to medium to dark, so you can really get the whole spectrum. The next colour we have is from the French paint brand Sennelier. So this is PR242 French Vermilion. This is a favourite colour of mine, of theirs, and I used it to paint poppies quite a lot recently. I did do a big painting of some poppies. I will leave that also up in the iCard for you to go check out if you want to see this colour in action and mixing. It's a very beautiful colour and I really like this one. It's got a really nice flow to it and it really sings, as all Sennelier paints tend to do. Handprint class it as an orange-red pigment, and it definitely is. It's a staining paint and it's very light fast, and it's a really beautiful paint. And right next to it we have another PR242. This one is from CassArt. They are a British art supply chain here in the UK, and they make their own house brand of watercolours, and they've got a colour called Vermilion, which is PR242, and it's nearly identical to the Sennelier one. I can't really see too much of a difference in them wet and wet. Next up we have Vermilion Hue by Holbein. I do definitely want to point out this is the hue made of a free pigment mix of PO473, PR254 and PY110. I do want to point out that it's hue because they do have another colour called Vermilion without the hue, and that is PR108. And it's the only multi-pigment colour that I'm testing today. Next up we have Jackson's Red, which is PR254. PR254 is a pyrrole red. It's supposed to be semi-opaque, it's light fast and staining. It's a beautiful red and it's got a really nice colour to it. I'm a big fan of the Jackson's range. Next to it is the Lucas red from Lucas Watercolor. It is the same pigment as the Jackson's one, and this is PR254. They do look slightly different even wet and wet, and you'll see they're definitely quite different once they dry. Next we have Permanent Red Middle, PR255. This one is from Rembrandt. It is the only PR255 I have in my collection, and it is Pyrrole Scarlet. This is definitely probably a very common replacement for Cadmium Red Light, as they are pretty similar in hue and behaviour, as you'll see once it's all dried. And lastly we have Old Holland's Vermilion Red Medium, which is PR112. Sorry, second to last. This is a beautiful colour as well, definitely more of a middle red colour, and it's from the Dutch brand Old Holland. It's a bit more of a pricey brand, but they are really intensely pigmented, as is this Scheveninger Red Medium. PR112 is a Navpol red, and Navpol reds have a slightly lower light fast rating than other reds. It's still quite light fast, or very light fast in most brands though, so it's nothing to worry about too much. And finally, lastly, we have a Scarlet Lake from Winsor & Newton, which is PR188. This too is a Navpol colour, but it's slightly more light fast than the PR112. Okay, so we're back now and the paints have all dried. So the swatches are all dry, so you can see what they look like after the drying shift and see how they really look once all the paint has dried. And you can see some of them have got quite a large drying shift and some not so much. So first off, looking at the Cadmium Red Light, which is currently in my watercolour palette. It's quite a nice orange red, it's quite opaque, and it's just a really good strong red colour. It's easy to see why this is so popular and why a lot of people still use cadmium red. It's a beautiful colour and very useful in mixing, as we'll see in a moment. The next one is also a cadmium red. This is my handmade one, Crimson PR108, and it's a bit dark and a bit sort of brown. I would definitely maybe consider putting this in the cool reds rather than the warm red section, but I kind of put it here anyway because it's the same pigment, but yeah, it's quite cool for a warm red. So the next one is a French Vermilion from Sennelier. I really like this one. This one is got a kind of a pinky undertone, but it's definitely still on the warmer side, as we'll see when we get to the mixes. And this one is transparent, there's no deposit on that black line whatsoever. The next one, Vermilion by Cassart, same pigment, and it behaves pretty much in the same. I do find the Sennelier one a little bit smoother than the Cassart one, so I don't know if that's something you want to consider. Again, completely transparent. Next we have the Holbein's Vermilion Hue, and this one is very orange. That's because it's a free pigment mix. I will add the pigment on the scan for Patreon. I've forgotten to add it on here, but I will add that information. And it's semi-opaque. There is some deposit on that black line, but it's not super opaque. You can still see the line pretty clearly underneath. Next on the bottom row we have Jackson's Red, which is PR254. Again, it's a slightly more pinker undertone. It's kind of more of a mid-red, but it still can mix pretty good oranges, as we'll see. Again, that's fairly transparent. The Lucas Red, which I believe is also the same pigment, PR254. It's a little bit more duller and there's more of a drying shift than the Jackson's Red. I did find this one had the biggest drying shift out of all the reds here that I've tried. Next we have Permanent Red Middle by Rembrandt, PR255, and that is a beautiful red. I really like this one. It's very comparable to the Cadmium Red Light. It's more transparent than the Cadmium Red Light. I would say this is semi-opaque, semi-transparent. It's definitely quite red and very strong and has excellent flow to it, as you can see through the paper. I definitely kind of prefer this one to the Cad Red Light from Schminke. This will probably be my go-to once I've used up all of my cadmium red. So the next one is Schlievninger Red Medium by Old Holland, which is PR112. Again, it's quite a pinky one. It's more of a middle red rather than a warm red, but you can still use it as a warm red. And this one is fully transparent. No deposit whatsoever on that black line. And then lastly we have Scarlet Lake by Winsor and Newton, PR188. Daniel Smith do a version of this as well, and that is a very warm red, a very orange undertone, slightly pinkish, but not as much as, say, the French Vermilion. And this is totally transparent as well. So we're going to take a look at the mixes now. Okay, so these are the mixes of the reds. So I split each one down into each paint and labelled it on the top. So colours I mixed were a cool yellow, a warm yellow, a violet, a blue, I think these are two blues actually, a green and another blue. So yeah, sorry, that's ultramarine blue. I kind of forgot, I do apologise. So this is lemon yellow PY3, this is a quinacridone gold hue, ultramarine blue. This one was a phthalo blue PB16. This one was a phthalo green PG7 and cerulean blue PB35. So looking at all these swatches, they're all they're quite identical really, considering. There's not too much variation between them. I think you can see the most variation probably between the blues, so when mixed with the ultramarine on how it granulates with that pigment. For example, the permanent red middle from Rembrandt has quite a strong granulation with the ultramarine blue. You can see it's got quite a nice effect here, whereas some of the other paints it doesn't have quite a strong effect. But they're all definitely quite warm reds. To make the warmest orange, the brightest orange, I would probably say permanent red middle is a pretty good candidate for the most orange. The French Vermilions were quite red oranges, they're very beautiful and they're quite creamy looking. Scarlet Lake is also another reddy orange colour, really nice and beautiful. But yeah, these are really nice mixes. When mixed with the phthalo blues, I got quite nice greens, kind of bluey greens, a bit like a Perylene green, kind of moody and dark. And you can also get a black when mixing with them as well, depending on the ratio. I tried to keep the ratio the same throughout, but it was a little bit challenging, obviously. A full scan of this will be available on my Patreon if you want a bit of a closer look, because there's quite a lot of information here, and I didn't want to drag the video on too much and have you been bombarded with information. But this is what they all look like. They're all pretty uniform really. I would say my favourite ones would definitely be the permanent red middle, the French Vermilion, and the Scarlet Lake. And of course I'm still going to continue to use the Cad Red Light for now, because that one is also a really nice colour. So let's have a look at the swatches and the colour mixing. So here it is, it's what it looks like. And you can see that they're all really nice red colours. They're really beautiful, and I like using warm red in my palette. I know some people don't, some people go for the more traditional magenta, but I have both. I have cool and a warm, and these are the warms I have in my collection, and I have Cad Red Light on my palette currently. But I'm definitely not opposed to changing it to one of the other reds. So this is it, this is the last ever episode. Well, it's not really. I'm kind of clickbaited the title a little bit. I will be doing a special one-off episode of Pigment Playtime in the future. I'm not going to release what colour or discuss what colour just yet, but basically I made an episode and I felt that I could have done it a bit differently and with different comparisons, so I'm going to redo it. I'm going to leave the old video up, but you'll find out in the future what colour it is. So let me know what you guys think down in those comment sections. Which red do you like out of all the warm reds that I've tried here? Is there any that are catching your eye, and what do you use in your palette? I'm really kind of curious, as I know it's quite a discussed topic, warm reds in colour palettes. So thank you guys for watching, and hopefully I shall see you in another video. Take care everybody, and bye bye.